All right, all right, all right. The Ramones said, hey ho, let's go. And David Bowie said, we can be heroes. Hello, my legendary friends. This is Christopher. Thanks for joining me for this short episode of Legends and Losers. And with me in the studio today is my daughter, the beautiful baby Beatrice, who also happens to be a hen. So if you hear chicken hen noises, that's beautiful baby B. She's sitting on my lap. All right. This may sound like a crazy topic, but I wanted to touch base with you on how to listen to a podcast, because I've been asked some questions in this regard, and I noticed something not that long ago. So here's the aha. Radio has taught us to listen to a very particular format, and that, of course, is the standard interview format. And if you're a longtime listener, you know, kind of not my thing, bordering on pissing me off, because the standard interview is edited, produced, the host, the producer has some kind of narrative they're trying to get across, and they're delivering to you what they think are the best parts of it, and they're spoon feeding it to you, and it's not representative of any kind of a real conversation amongst two people. And the guest is highly media trained, and they're delivering their talking points. And so there's, by design, the typical interview is deeply inauthentic. So that's the first thing. The second thing is just the way radio works. It's trained our ear to listen in a particular way. And so the interview paradigm and sort of the radio paradigm have made us comfortable with a very particular kind of audio listening experience. And what I've noticed is a great podcast, when you first listen to it, is going to sound new, is going to sound different, is going to sound fresh. And that newness, that uniqueness, that different can, oh, there's Beatrice talking, can be a little bit off-putting, particularly because we've been so trained by radio. And so here's the aha. If you find yourself at a new podcast, you're there for a reason. Maybe somebody recommended it to you. Maybe you heard or read about the host and thought they sounded like a cool person. Or maybe you were just banging around inside one of the podcast apps, and the logo or the write-up or something attracted you. So give the podcast a chance. Listen with fresh ears, because by definition, the podcast will probably sound a little jarring because it's different than what we're typically trained to listen to with radio. And I want to share with you two examples from my life. The first one is the Jordan Harbinger show. Jordan's been a guest on Legends and Losers. He's an incredible guy, a podcast pioneer, but he's very different. He has a very unique style. He's not particularly funny. He can be a little bit dry. He's got a very particular vibe with his producer, Jason DeFilippo, who's on pretty much every episode. And the first time I heard them, it was one of their Q&A shows. They do a Friday answering questions show. And I didn't quite get the vibe between them. And then I listened to a couple of their guest episodes, and Jordan's so unique in his approach, at first I wasn't sure. But I gave it a chance. I stuck with it because I knew it was a popular podcast. It had been recommended to me. And there was 1% of my brain that was going, there's something here for me. And because I gave it a chance, his prior show, but now called the Jordan Harbinger show, is one of my favorites. And I love the vibe between Jordan and Jason, and it's an amazing show. The second one where I had that example, or that same kind of thing happen to me, is with a podcast called Seeking Wisdom, hosted by a guy named David Cancel and David Gerhardt. And I first heard this podcast a while ago. I thought it was fun, but for whatever reason, the needle didn't go in the vein, so to speak, and I didn't keep listening. We recently shot an episode of Legends and Losers with David. You'll be hearing that soon. He's an incredible entrepreneur. I'm a huge fan. I don't know him well, just getting to know him, but I really admire the guy tremendously. Anyway, long story longer, he goes by DC. His co-host, David Gerhardt, goes by DG. And in sort of preparation for having DC on Legends and Losers, I started consuming a bunch of the podcast, Seeking Wisdom. And as a result of that, the needle went in the vein, and I began to really get into the vibe between DC and DG. They're actually very funny together, and when they have guests on, they chase rabbits down zebra holes, and they have a very funny shtick. They're always telling you to leave a review. And, you know, a lot of podcasters do that in an annoying way. I've never figured out a way to ask you to leave a review that I didn't think was at least a little annoying. Go ahead, please leave us a review. But the two of them ask for reviews. It feels like every 15 seconds, and they make it funny, just like they make pretty much everything on Seeking Wisdom. The other thing I'd say is there's an episode 121 of Seeking Wisdom, called Play Bigger, Creating a Category in the Bermuda Triangle, where the guys are supposedly doing a review of Play Bigger. And I think they talk, I don't know how long the episode is. Maybe it's about 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something like that. But I think in that time, they probably talk about Play Bigger for 2 minutes. Most of it is just, you know, silly banter that's actually quite entertaining and funny. Anyway, what's my point? If you stumble upon a podcast, use fresh ears. Realize that if it's a great podcast, it's probably going to be a little bit jarring at first. Some people have, and now look, you might be saying this is self-serving. It is a little self-serving because people have told me this about Legends and Losers, that when they first get to it, they're like, what? What's going on? They're not used to hearing these kinds of conversations, or maybe they're used to hearing this level of swearing or something, right? Legends and Losers doesn't sound like a typical radio show, far from it. And Jordan Harbinger and Seeking Wisdom are their own unique thing. And so all I'm saying is there's a lot of great podcasts out there. If you stumble into one you think might be, listen with fresh ears. Give it a few episodes and only judge it after that. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you're like me, there are some podcasts where at first you're not sure. You give them a chance. You invest some time in a few episodes, and then they become something that you enjoy on a super regular basis. I would also encourage you to check out the Jordan Harbinger Show and Seeking Wisdom. And that's it. I hope you're having a great week. And apologies to Greg Clark, CEO of Symantec. Sorry, Greg. We just ran out of time for you.